9th meeting of the Equal Employment Practices Commission. We're transmitting this meeting live in compliance with open meetings law. And it's 10:30, and if Jean Victor, our executive director, can do a roll call of the commissioners, please.
Yes, good morning. Chair and Commissioner Aldrin Demian.
Present.
Vice Chair and Commissioner Elena Reese. Present. Commissioner Manaska Alcantara. Present. Commissioner Nicole Yearwood.
Present.
And Commissioner Ngozi Okara. Present.
With all commissioners present, we have quorum. To proceed, we have the approval of the minutes, which we all received from the September 14, 2023 meeting. Do we have a motion to approve the minutes? We have a motion to approve the minutes by Commissioner Reese. We have a second by Commissioner Okaru. Any discussion? In the minutes, there's just on one of the pages where it's for bylaws. It just says B laws. It's just a little typo there. And then also for consistency, when we report out the votes, if we can have it consistent with what it is on page 3, I think, in terms of the chair, the commissioner moves for a vote, and then someone so moves, and then someone seconds, so that language can be uniform across the minutes. All right. Any other comments on the minutes? There are no other comments. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, abstentions, hearing none, the motions to approve the minutes passes. Next, we have the approval of audit resolution, section 3. We have the 2023 final determination resolutions, and I believe we can do with all 15 as a bundle, unless I'm looking at the commissioners and I'm seeing a nod of agreement.
I think just,
We could read them out to the record. Yes.
well, just, Chair Bonilla, I just want to put my question on the record, regarding just the average number of corrective actions, and, you know, so we can gauge what's normal and what might be, a little higher than normal. Because I did notice that at least one community board had like 10 corrective actions, and I thought that seemed like a lot.
So, so that the EEPC staff could better respond to your request, would you like a snapshot of what the average is for a given meeting that we're voting on, or would you want like a running tally of what the average is just as a whole?
Maybe just, and I guess maybe generally for community boards, so, you know, we
No, but I think it's,
compare apples to apples.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
You could, yeah,
What
no,
do
I
you
think,
wanna do?
yeah, no, I
Over the
think,
course of the year.
yeah, I think, you know, for all agencies too, but if we
Yeah.
want to do community board a subset, and if I can add that, not only the average corrections, but which correction seems more prevalent than others.
Right.
So if there's one corrective action that seems to be more, that agencies are having trouble with, which may be an area we can be more proactive in, and any other things you think might be helpful for commissioners to view in relation to the trends of compliance. Let me get Commissioner Reese first, that's our hand up, and then
My understanding from earlier conversation is we're looking at 2 different kinds of audits, so that the community boards have a simpler audit. Therefore, we ought to know what the community board's mean is, and then look at the mean for the other agencies. Because to the extent there's a difference, we want to be comparing apples to apples and oranges to oranges. So am I right, Jean, that there's a slight difference in the
Yeah.
audit?
Yeah.
Then what we ought to know is what's the mean for community boards or average, and what's the mean or average for other agencies? Average corrective action.
Okay.
Average corrective action.
Okay.
So that we know when there is one. I think your point is we want to know where there's something that's larger than the average, so that we focus on what that is
Right.
so.
and what may be causing it.
So I guess it would be the snapshot of what's before us on the agenda. And then because we have the data, maybe some historical. So when you get an average, you know, you can present us with the mean and the max. So we know if there's any, the average has been unfairly influenced by outliers. whatever information you think would be good for us in that regard.
For me, can we put give us a sense of how many are left? Like, I don't know how many community boards there are. So if it is 244 with this determination, do we have 300 left or whatever number left?
There are 51 community, I believe it's 51 city council members, so it's 51 community boards.
Well, we break everything down by year. So this year we have was it 18 community boards. And Menelik, you may have a better sense than I have about how many are left.
So for this year, in terms of the Brooklyn Community Boards, we have 3 preliminary determinations still to issue and 5 final determinations.
No, but
of the
question is,
18.
what are the total number of community boards that we audit? And then out of that, how many do we still have left?
Yeah.
to do?
Okay, so we've audited the Bronx Community Boards and Staten Island last year and the Brooklyn Community Boards this year. So we have Queens and Manhattan left. And those are up for the 2025 audit plan.
Okay.
Okay. So this year, we're only auditing
Brooklyn, yeah, the
Okay.
18 Brooklyn.
So can we put that information like 2023, I'm sorry. 2023 Brooklyn boards, 5 remaining to evaluate, or so that way we know, oh, we're getting to the goal.
Any other comments on this? Now, while we're bundle it in terms of a vote, if Executive Director Jean Victor, or would it be Melanie?
I'll read the first
Could you
grouping.
read them into the record, please?
Yes. So for 2023, final determination resolutions, we have resolution number 2023 AP/269-486, paren 2023, that's Brooklyn Community Board 16. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-487, 2023 Brooklyn Community Board 17. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-488, paren 2023 is Brooklyn Community Board 18. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-472, 2023 Brooklyn Community Board 2. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-781, paren 2023, that's Department of Probation. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-836, paren 2023 is Department of Finance. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-901, 2023 is Office of the New York County District Attorney. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-474, paren 2023 is Brooklyn Community Board 4. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-471, paren 2023 Brooklyn Community Board 1. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-475, paren 2023 Brooklyn Community Board 5. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-477, paren 2023 is Brooklyn Community Board 7. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-479, paren 2023 Brooklyn Community Board 9. Resolution number 2023/269-041, paren 2023 Teachers Retirement System, New York City. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-478, paren 2023 Brooklyn Community Board 8. Resolution number 2023 AP/269-476, paren 2023 Brooklyn Community Board 6.
Thank you. Is there any significance for the teacher retirement system, New York City being in bold? Or is that just?
It just seems to be some
Okay,
type of.
okay. So, all in favor of approving the 2023 final determination resolutions as read into the record? A motion to approve. Commissioner Manosca, motion to approve, seconded by Commissioner O'Carroll. All in favor, say,
Aye.
any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion is passed. Next, we have section 2023 compliance resolutions. If Executive Director Jean Victor, you can read them into the record as well.
Yeah, I'll let Menelik also do that.
All right.
I have one question. I know that Brooklyn Community Board 1 is also in compliance. Does that mean that they had nothing that they needed to correct?
So they had just two, I believe, corrective actions, but they responded into the preliminary determination, and in our final determination, they were found to have no corrective actions, which exempt them from the monitoring period. So that's how they ended up in both.
So they should
Thank
have
you.
been in a category C, but going forward, we'll put them in category C.
Okay. So as for the 2023 compliance resolution, we have resolution number 2023 AP/269030, parens 2023 C38, Department of City Planning. Resolution number 2023 AP/269019, paren 2023 C39, Office of Management and Budget. Resolution number 2023 AP/269866, parens 2023 C40, Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. Resolution number 2023 AP/269850, paren 2023 C41, Department of Design and Construction. Resolution number 2023 AP/269907, paren 2023 C42, New York City Housing Development Corporation. Resolution number 2023 AP/269073, paren 2023 C43, Board of Correction. Resolution number 2023 AP/269944, paren 2023 C44, Queens County Public Administrator. Resolution number 2023 AP/269156, paren 2023 C45, Taxi and Limousine Commission. And resolution number 2023 AP/269471, paren 2023 C46, Brooklyn Community Board 1.
Thank you. Do we have a motion to approve the 2023 compliance resolutions? I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Reese, seconded by Commissioner Alcantara. Any discussion? All in favor of this motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes. Next, we have section 4, old business, subsection A, EEPC bylaws, final version, which you should have all received both in paper form and electronically. It's the idea of this appearing on the agenda to see if folks had any final remarks or comments.
Correct.
Any remarks or comments in terms of the approved EEPC bylaws? I'm going to thank everyone again, thank the commissioners and thank the EEPC staff for undergoing this important task of having bylaws for the first time. So congratulations, everybody. No, it wasn't easy. It required several meetings.
So then all the corrections were made that were addressed at the prior meeting, and so that will be the final version.
Yes,
This is the first time having bylaw.
correct.
Oh, exciting. Congratulations. Yeah, go ahead, Chair. Yeah.
Next, we have section B, procedures for remote attendance, status update.
Yeah, I wanted to give you a status update on the procedures for remote attendance. If you recall, at the last meeting, you asked me to send the procedures to the law department for review. I did want to let you know that, the issues that we had discussed at the last meeting really revolved around quorum and whether or not members who were remote could vote if they had that ability. And I just did want to point out that we are going to have to change or have to tweak, I should say, our procedures just a little bit to be in accordance with the law. According to the Open Public Meetings Law, there are 2 procedures that have been identified for remote attendance. One is if you're ill. If you're ill and you are going to be appearing at the meeting remotely, you still count for quorum. But if you are not going to appear because of illness, but for extraordinary circumstances, which is the other reason, then you don't count for the quorum. But in all cases, you're able to vote, if that makes sense to you.
So you need to have a quorum in place in order to have the meeting. Once you have a quorum in place, the person who's remote
Can
can vote.
vote.
If
Yes.
it's ill.
Excuse me?
The person that is remote can vote if ill.
If ill or not ill, even under extraordinary circumstances, they can still participate in the meeting.
So if they
and vote.
participate, they vote. But I cannot say like extraordinary circumstances, I don't show up, I wanna vote, that's not allowed.
No, you can vote.
Yeah.
You can vote.
If I'm not in the meeting,
If you're not in the meeting, if there are extraordinary circumstances, you can still vote, but you don't count for the quorum.
okay, got it, thank you.
That's the difference.
And how do I do the vote? Like the day before, the day after?
No, just
Now,
like.
you're online.
No, that's what I mean. If there's an extraordinary circumstance that I cannot attend the meeting, so I'm not part of the quorum, can my vote count even if I'm not online?
Oh,
Probably not.
yeah, that would
Okay,
have to
that
be
wouldn't
like
count.
during the.
Perfect. Now I understand. Thank you.
And that's in line, and I meant to send this, that's in line with the community boards, where they have to have a quorum in person, and then people still.
So I will reissue the procedures, after we make a couple of minor changes.
Okay. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Next, we have subsection C and the section 4, which a lot of work's happened in since last we met. It's the budget FY 24 status update.
Yippee.
I just wanted to make sure everyone was aware. Oh, wow. So yes, we were allowed to, the proposal that we put forth was accepted, and we are now allowed to fill 3 EEO program analysts and 1 part-time attorney.
So we're back up to 12, but not 14.
Correct.
So we still are down to.
Technically, yes.
And I wanna, for those who have relationships with the city council, which I know there are many relationships here, I know for Commissioner Yearwood's, edification too, because I know she has a lot of relationships with the city council. When I first came on board, I thought the original head count was 17. And that's what we were trying to advocate to get back up to. Is that still correct? Or would getting back to 14 be the success? Or getting to the original head count of 17?
Were we
Or
ever
was
at
I
17?
mistaken? Was
We
I
were never at
mistaken?
17, but we were trying to increase to 17.
Oh, got it.
We were never at 17.
We were never at 17.
Never at 17.
What was our highest, 14?
We never even made it to 14. We had received approval to fill a position that would have brought us to 14, and then we posted the position, and then they declined and they pulled it back, and they said, no, we could not do it
Are we saying 14 analysts or 14 overall?
altogether.
Okay.
Commissioner Yearwood?
My question would be, how many of you really to get the work done, the audits? And then additionally, this, because we were talking about this comparable work analysis also that they want us to do.
Which DCAS has been assigned to do
Oh,
that.
TCAS has, okay, okay, wonderful.
But Nicole, we still have the added burden of the local law. So
Local law.
that piece, we are tasked with more than just audits. We're tasked with, I believe, 2 research studies at this point, not 1. So there are 2 research studies coupled with the audits. So if you looked at us historically before the local law, I think we were at 12 historically without having local law imposed upon us. And so the increase up to 14 was an attempt of recognition of our new tasks. We never got the 14th. The 13th was there. And then what you find is a diversion from the number of auditors in order to fill the research position. So the audit group gets diminished in order to beef up, for want of another term, I apologize for my terminology, the research group.
So.
And how large is the research group now? 3? 3. So that means you've taken 2 auditor positions away. Because I think the one research director was a new position and was an addition at that point. I mean, I apologize because I'm going back to my history in my head, and that file cabinet is quite full.
I think,
I guess what I'm trying to get to is what do we need to accomplish our chart?
I think the 17, if I recall, was including a labor economist in the mix, including, I think you yourself and some other commissioners mentioned that we should be having a more robust interactive web presence, maybe in terms of the technology realm. And then I think in the mix was also, social media under that. And then I think the whole beefing up the research with more data analytics, or database management, so that we can, at that time, we thought we would be able to, or even if we have articulation agreements or MOUs with DCAS, we would need someone to help really understand how to align the data sets and mine the data in a way that can help out the research unit. So I think 17 is still where we feel we want to be, not even aspirationally, but operationally. So I think that's the number that we should continue to have in our minds, 17.
And how much are we short in terms of the budget to get to that 17?
Well, we're funded for, once we get the 3 analysts and the part-time attorney in, we'll be up to 12. And if we want to go to 17, then we would need, 5 more headcount, the salaries and OTPS money that's associated with that.
And money in addition to looking at,
I'm sorry, Commissioner, do we know the number that would be attached to the 5?
Depending on the titles. So let's say an EEO program analyst, brand new off the street, that's 59,116, I believe.
plus OPS.
Plus OTPS. If you want somebody with experience, we could be talking about, $100,000 a year. It all depends on how much experience they have and where they're coming from. If they're coming from city government and coming in here, then we have to honor the salary that they have currently.
Is there, and this doesn't have to be done today, but what I would like to have is, I guess by the time it's time for us to go into, our next hearing around the budget, if we could just have the 5 titles and the salary plus OTPS, and let's just do the highest. Just so that maybe we can ask for that and make the case for it. And just so they know, and it's official, even if they don't give us the money, that it's officially on record that this is what we need to actually fulfill the mandate.
But there is additional monies. We are supposedly mandated to be doing a conference. And we have taken those monies and are Zooming the conference as opposed to renting a room and doing it in purpose and actually hiring some speakers. So that money should be put back into our request as well, because a portion of what our undertaking is to continue to educate the HR officers and others within the city as to EEOC.
No, agreed, and that actually would be helpful when we're pulling this data on the number of corrective actions, because then that will help us make the case by saying, this is a running theme, so that we can address these points in the conference that we hold, because we're seeing a theme in the corrective actions.
It depends, and what we might want to know is where the area of corrective action is, because if we find it in a particular area, let's say it's promotions, then we really need to focus on teaching, educating on how you deal with promotions so that they're fair.
Is it clear where we're trying to go, G?
Yes.
Cool.
Just to clarify, the 3 new analysts plus the general counsel would be 13. So it would be 12 full-time staff. And then
The part-time analyst, the part-time counsel doesn't count.
Doesn't count as in terms of PS. The 40,000, when we find out whether or not that is the case, that should be OTPS to go into this conference was mentioned, as well as trainings, right? When you hire new people, you have to train them, you have to send them to conferences, you have to send them to get certified, you have to send them to understand.
You have
best
training
practices.
costs.
So there's training costs to that,
Yes.
all right? Anything else on this category?
No, that absolutely makes sense. We could spend it on the conference.
And I did want to note that right now we only have one analyst. Since our last meeting, we had lost another analyst. So we had lost 2 analysts in the past 2 months.
And it is 59% open.
Are these people what?
How much is the data analyst position?
The EEO program analyst is 59,116.
Too little to really.
That's what I was gonna say. So
Different
maybe that
question.
explains.
Where did they go?
So one took a civil service position, a permanent civil service position.
This is not permanent?
No, this is where our titles are not competitive. So if you really want to get into
Yeah.
the system, you have to be in a competitive title, permanent in competitive title. So one went to take a permanent position and the other one was burnt out.
Burnt out.
So should we do, why don't we do our positions permanent?
They would have to take an exam and we'd have to pick somebody off the list.
Some current positions are permanent, right? You're picking some people off the list.
Yes,
Okay.
like our computer science person is on the list.
But the analysts, why don't you pick them from competitive lists?
It's a good question. It's something that we could look at
What is the difference in price,
in
in
salaries.
salary and compensation?
I really don't know off the top of my head. We'd have to look at the specific titles,
Okay.
but I can take a look into that.
Because if that will be, allow you to have people that will stay longer, maybe that is a good thing, because what happens is that as soon as the position opens, they can take it from you the following year if it's not filled. So if we have people that we know are more likely to stay, they may be a little bit more expensive, but then you don't have to be so worried that they're gonna snatch the open position.
So, but I just do have to caution you that this is a system where people bounce around a lot because,
Oh, I do.
you know, they take exams, they get called, they move. They take another exam, they get called, they move. So there's constant movement.
I know.
That is the way they get promoted.
Yeah, which is very sad into the system, because the system, just because I was looking at these promotions and things, is because the system doesn't promote many times from within. People learn the game. That is like, if I want a bigger position, then I move to this other place, and it's this constant rotational element that may be solved by promoting people from within and giving them the opportunities to grow within their agencies. So it will be nice to see what this agency,
As long as they stay in civil service, though, hopefully we can continue to develop and keep that talent.
but I've seen people that go in and out, and when they go to the private for a while and come back, they come with bigger money. So it's like I've seen people not gaming the system, but to be honest, learning the ways that the system works for them, because otherwise the system doesn't let you grow as an individual. And that's one of the sad things.
That raises a good point, but it's not. Maybe in the new business, but I wanted to mention. Next we have Commissioner Badges status update.
Yeah, I just wanted to circle back with you about the badges. You asked me to go check to see if DCAS gives out badges. They do not. They told me that they can give us the name of their vendor.
And I think there wasn't much appetite among commissioners to pursue that. Was
To
there?
spend the money.
I feel like there was some,
Appetite.
but
If they're officially issued, yes. If we have to buy them, no.
No, but if we have to buy them, I mean, we still have OTPS, and sometimes at the end of the year, you still even have to, unfortunately, transfer funds
I
back.
just flashed a pad.
I mean, look, if there's.
Why don't we see what's left at the end of the year?
Just get the pricing of it.
They
Right, so
said
then at the end of the year.
325 or something, right? Or 225.
Yeah, the pricing that I got was not necessarily the DCAS vendor, but I'll get the DCAS vendor's pricing.
And then see what you've got left at the end of the year.
Or even before then, the year, just sort of plan for it. Plan for it, see what the expenses are. All right, next we have the commissioner meeting dates. You all have the dates before you. This is the first time I've seen when we only have 7 meetings in that calendar year, so it speaks to our efficiency or our desire to perhaps, yes, efficiency. And so hopefully the dates work for the majority of us so that we can always have quorum. Next, we go to new business. The meeting with Natasha, Councilmember Natasha Williams and DC 37 scheduled for tomorrow. Jean Victor, would you speak more about that?
God bless you. I just wanted to make the board aware that there's a meeting scheduled for tomorrow with Councilmember Natasha Williams and DC 37 to discuss the budget of the EEPC. Just so that you're all aware, I did make the request to Councilmember Williams that the EEPC was requesting $40,000 for the salary for a part-time executive agency counsel. And I believe that is under consideration. I was led to believe that was under consideration. So but I have not heard more about that.
So maybe we might find out. And we also made the request to Councilmember Gail Brewer as well. Was it for 40 or 60?
I think it was around that, yes.
To advocate.
Do we have a memorandum of, can we do, is the question, MOUs with other agencies regarding their resources?
Yes.
So, because I have the agency that I work with, we have a memorandum of understanding with Thruway that we can go and say, is it okay with you if I tap into this person? They're a billion times bigger than me, so they always do a lot of in-kind, don't charge me kind of things. But it works well because there are positions that I need sporadically, and they allow me to use their people. For instance, my HR department is 2 people, their HR department is like, I don't know, 30. So when there are the specialists within their department, instead of me getting a consultant or whatever, we write an MOU and I tap into them, and it works to me like HR. So is that something that we can do with general counsel?
We currently do that right now with DCAS when it comes to HR matters. We do not handle all of our HR work. We handle the hiring part of the HR piece, but we don't handle certain budgetary things. DCAS handles them for us. So in answer to your question, we have that arrangement with DCAS right now where they handle some of our budgetary matters. As far as executive agency counsel, we have the approval for the part-time. So we're gonna go with the part-time and see how that works out.
Commissioner Reese?
Why don't you find out from Corp Counsel whether there's someone who has recently left Corp Counsel or is someone who's off on maternity leave perhaps or whatever, or would be willing to work part-time? I mean, you may find yourself with a lawyer who's within the city, who has knowledge of the city rules, who is not currently employed within Corp Counsel.
What is Corp Counsel?
That's the city's law
City's
department.
lawyer.
Okay.
It's called Corporation Counsel.
Okay. Nice. That's good.
Anything else on the
Great.
meeting with Natasha? Councilmember Natasha Williams? Yeah.
Is anyone going?
Tomorrow, yeah, it's at 11:30, right? Yeah, I'm available to go for like about a half hour and start it off, and then Commissioner Reese, I believe, is gonna call in as well. Anybody else is welcome to.
Yeah, I was gonna call in.
Is that in the calendar?
Is that- has it- has it
I'll make
scheduled?
sure that the link goes to everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
If I can, we'll listen in, and you don't have to compensate me for my attendance.
I think we agreed last time, yeah, that's a great point though, but I think we agreed that outside of this and the council hearing, we weren't gonna compensate.
That's right. I think that's what we agreed.
Everybody was, Do we agree on that or no? We can always revisit it if that's not the understanding of the
What was
commission.
the understanding?
That, in terms of the per diem, applicable by city charter for these meetings, these stated meetings, these commission meetings, as well as, one person or whoever's testifying in front of the city council. And that was the extent of per diem.
Compensation.
There was question about the working group, which was commissioned and sanctioned by the board, being compensated for that. And I think the agreement was that either we would table it or we agreed that that wouldn't be included in per diems. I'm looking at commissioners to see if that was the recollection.
That's what I understand.
That was my recollection.
Yeah, same for me.
Okay. Everybody else?
Well, my recollection was that if we needed, if I felt that we needed somebody from the commission to be
Oh,
at the
absolutely.
meeting, then that would be compensated.
That you will tap into the person and that would be.
Yeah,
good. I remember that.
But you
Yeah.
were making the decision.
Yeah,
And that was that reflected in the, it wouldn't be reflected in the bylaws, it would be reflected in the guidelines that you
Right.
guys, okay.
And that's going to be modified as well.
Okay. Okay. All right. In terms of new business, just, and I know something that Commissioner Alcantara mentioned that kind of made me think about it in terms of proximate experience. So I just wanted to see if you give me clarity on this. You know how during the pandemic, many people exited city government, right? And I think in the last report, we got insufficient data necessarily to say whether there were patterns distinct in terms of who exited, but I think some of women of color in particular might have exited more than others. But then now people are returning back to city government. I've been approached by several constituencies that, particularly, let's say, Black and Latina women who worked for New York City government, right? Maybe 3, 4, 5 years, right? Exited during the pandemic, right? And now are reapplying for city government. And the human resource departments they've been gone from city government, let's say 18 months, maybe even 24 months. As they're reapplying, it seems like their previous experience has been discounted in that they are told they're only eligible for, you know how there's a salary range? They're being brought in at the lowest salary range. And they're being told by HR departments that their previous experience cannot be taken into account because they've been out of city service for a certain amount of months or a year plus. This seems unsettling to me or disturbing or somewhat counterintuitive because in some instances, someone who's never had city service, who might have gotten a master's degree or whatever, might conceivably enter city service with a higher salary than someone who's worked in the city for 4 years, but because of the pandemic and a variety of reasons, exited city service and now is returning, and they are returning at the lowest rung of the salary range. Is what I'm saying resonating to people? Does it make sense? And what you've heard and also your own personal experience, either with HR, that this is in fact true to whatever regulation folks are hiring in terms of why they're being treated as new almost to the city and at the lowest rung. So if anyone has any kind of experience in this regard around regulations or so that can enlighten me on this, I would appreciate it. And Commissioner Reese has her hand up on this matter.
I have no experience and I don't have an answer, but I wonder if it depends on the title. So I wonder if it's across the board or whether it's based on the title. You yourself said if someone has a master's and comes in is applying versus someone who's had 4 years of experience, they may or may not be applying for the same title. So I wonder whether it depends on what they're looking for and what job title they're looking at as to whether or not they are now being viewed as being coming in at the lowest rung. There are throughout the
And
city.
the women exiting too may or may not have masters.
Well, but they may and they may or may not have an advanced, they may have been at the lowest rung to begin with. And so the issue is, the issue is because they were there, they had stepped up based on their period of time, had earned an advanced amount of money and now are coming back in at the base
I
salary.
guess my question is what I'm being told by this, is that correct? Is that correct, that from a human resource thing, you see that
I think
in terms of information that they're reporting back, that they made them exited during the pandemic at 54,000, they have like 4 or 5 years experience. There's job listings being listed like 54,900 to, let's say, 65. And they're being told, no, you are new to city government. You're coming. They're like, no, I've worked 4 or 5 years. I am not new to city government. Why would I, be at the lowest? This is correct. This is-
I believe so.
I have never seen that because my experience is that how is that different from if she had come in from private sector? If I accrue 5 years of experience in the private sector and then decided to move into the public sector in a position that I have experience, why do I have to start from the bottom?
Why city
I had never
service?
seen
Yeah,
that.
why city service being discounted?
And I was gonna say that, I think that what you're talking about, Minoska, is that like coming from the private to city. But if they were in city and coming back to city, because I know, for instance, I had federal experience. If I go back to the federal government, there's a base level that they can pay me at because I've reached a certain grade and a level
That's
in the
great.
federal
That's
experience.
great.
So I don't know if it works the same for the city, but I could get why people would think that. Like if I come in and I have 5 years experience and was at a certain level and I'm applying for a comparable position, I would think I could come in a little higher than the base because of the previous experience within city government.
But that's the reason I asked my title question,
Right.
because as opposed to your ranking, here we're dealing with titles. And so the question is, are they still in the same title based on even with their experience? So I don't know the answer, but a clerk is a clerk is a clerk. A secretary is a secretary is a secretary. A beginning lawyer is a beginning lawyer versus a lawyer who has been in somewhat of a management position. That's my understanding of the city.
But Elaine, can I ask a question? Same for you. If, let's say that I'm a lawyer and I work in city government for 5 years and the range of pay goes from, I don't know, as a lawyer, 90 to 120. And then I go out, come back, even though I'm coming back to the lawyer position, wouldn't that 2 years that I work somewhere else count as experience and move me up in the ladder of
It might, or
salary?
I might come in now applying for a junior.
No, let's say that I'm
management
saying-
Position within the legal department, because I wouldn't come back in just wanting to be a lawyer. I'd want to come back into being a head or the second in command. I would be applying, if I were a litigator, I would be applying for a higher role within the litigation department. That's why I asked the title question.
No, that I understand, but my question is, if I were to come in the same time, let's say that I still don't feel, I wanna come back to my the same job that I was coming back before. Can they discount the experience that I gained outside?
Probably,
Yes.
probably, yeah.
Why?
So the issue is, if I were coming back in as a lawyer, I now would be saying, as opposed to being a lawyer, I'd like to be the general counsel.
No,
for
no,
EEPC.
same position, because then you're merging the
Yeah,
water.
Commissioner,
So
you,
and again, I'm going with federal experience. So your outside experience.
Yeah.
Would count as you having experience to get the position.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't count in terms of the grade and the time.
Right,
They would count that, okay, well, Minosko worked for the federal government for 3 years and was a grade 12, step 4.
Okay,
So you couldn't come in less than a grade 12, step 4, because that's what you were when you left. But it wouldn't count, your private experience wouldn't necessarily count towards you getting an increased salary. It would be based on what you got when you left.
even if I
Federal
bring more experience in the job?
that's right.
Yeah.
well,
Oh,
you would be applying presumably to a job that had a higher salary.
I mean, but even for
would-
instance, if you weren't, right? Like, let's say, you know what, I stepped out of the federal role, didn't love it, I just wanna come back into federal service at the same position. It would be the same level and step that you left.
Right.
You could try to kind of finagle,
Maneuver.
but.
If someone,
Don't try, but, because
yeah,
I'm giving it.
on the city, yeah.
But go ahead.
at the city level, if I could get clarity, like,
So-
not for this meeting, but in terms of like what the actual regulation is for HR.
So there are two salaries that I get to choose from. And I kind of alluded to this when I talked about the EEO program analyst. If somebody's coming in off the street, I can only pay them the new higher rate.
Yes.
If they're already in civil service and they're coming from another department, I get to pay them the incumbent rate, which is
What
higher.
they're earning.
So I guess, so these individuals that I'm referencing who've left city service during the pandemic. And may have had 4, 5, 6, 7, it doesn't matter, right?
They're gone.
They're coming back as new hires.
Yeah.
Right.
And if, and I believe some data and evidence supports this, if the pandemic, in terms of the stressors and the obligations and the life choices, disproportionately affected women and women of color having to leave city government, right? As opposed to men and men of different ethnicities. If this disproportionately impacted the women of color workforce of the city during the pandemic, and they left city government at base rates higher than anyone else, and now there's personal decisions being made in large numbers of these women wanting to come back into the city workforce, and they're being treated as new employees,
New hires.
new hires. Isn't this a equity,
Yes.
fairness,
Yeah.
concern that the EEPC at the very least would see as a red flag or an area of further exploration?
But is everybody,
I don't
is
think so.
everybody put to the
I don't
same
think so, I'm
side?
afraid.
Well, I get what the chair is saying, but I do know that and I'm not saying it wasn't correct, but I can say that because a time ago when I was applying for city jobs and the range would be 59,000 to 140, like a crazy range for a position. And I was talking to somebody and they were like, no, they're only bringing in people at the lowest end of the salary. So that's what I remember being told years ago, even though the range was crazy and I'm coming in with experience, they were like, nope, 59 is the salary they're
New
bringing
hire,
in
yeah.
for a new hire. So I was given that information, but at the same time, I do understand and agree that while everybody is being treated the same, there was a situation that disproportionately impacted women and specifically women of color when the pandemic happened and people had to stay home, when kids had to stay home specifically and take care of children. And, kids had to stay home and parents took care of children, so.
Commissioner?
Yeah, and I don't know whether that's a presumption on our part as well. I don't know. I'd love
That's
to know how many
documented.
men stayed home.
that's
No,
documented.
it's
No,
documented from like the beginning of the
women
pandemic.
color
Even our
were
own
more
research, I
impacted in
think,
the
spoke a
workplace
little bit
as a
to.
result of the pandemic.
Where
That's
more?
documented. Women of color were impacted the most in terms of workplace, in terms of being set back, it was women of color.
I'm wondering
Women in
if we, I
general.
mean,
Do you know the reasons? Imagine. What were the reasons why women of color were more impacted?
Well, women were more impacted,
Okay.
first of all, right? And then women of color were more impacted.
it's a variety of reasons.
But did they,
If schools closed and that
Okay,
child has
got
to be home, there was a childcare issue.
okay,
There's also an issue of
They didn't have more children than that.
safety and protection. The way the transport subways were during the height of pandemic, different things. There was a variety of
And
different.
also the types of jobs that women of color had, right? So I was lucky, for instance, where, some of us, we knew we could stay
couldn't work
home and
remote.
work from home.
Yeah, you
There were
couldn't,
people
yeah.
who could not work remote when their places of business shut down.
Yeah.
So now they were out of the.
Was that,
workforce.
but that should not have been true for the city workers, because all of the city workers were, at one point, were able to work remotely.
Well, some were deemed
So,
essential too.
But they brought people back earlier, and then some were deemed essential.
Well, no, the city,
And those
Was city-
roles just.
city was late in bringing
The
people
people
back.
color,
See,
the
to me,
ones
the
that
essential-
considered essential.
But the essential people, like if you think about it,
People of color.
like the people in transit is not a city agency, right? But if you think about transit, those people were essential. Those people also were much more impacted by the pandemic in terms of illness and death, right? And they didn't have the option, like if you drive on a bus, you don't have the option to work from home. So I think that we need to just remember that like there are different jobs and people are affected differently and people are also placed differently in those jobs. I would say that probably like the job, Nicole and I are outliers, as is Minoska, in terms of a woman of color and what job they're doing.
I understand, but for many of the jobs within the city and some of the jobs they may be reapplying for, I mean,
I
without,
just think,
Yeah.
There was
They may have
also
been-
an issue where people
they
were
may have
forced
been
to
low
leave
paying
because
jobs.
they were not
Low-paying jobs.
vaccinated. So that was also a thing. So around the vaccination question.
yeah, that's where I was gonna go to next. But there's no, I firmly believe this is within the purview of House of the EPC. If there's no objections in granted by commissioners, I would like to work with the research and with the team at the EPC
As
to
long
see if
as
we
you
can
all have the
further
capacity.
Yeah.
some of these questions to extend it some, I mean, some of it is just understanding the new hire policy and, before we can get to the disparate impact of it. As Commissioner Yu will mention, people were being, let go for non-vaccination. And these individuals now are back in city service and they've been made whole and all that. So I can't understand why aspirationally and for justice and for equity, a commission like this wouldn't be at the forefront of saying that anyone who exited city service during the pandemic and now is returning to city service should now be considered new hires in the traditional sense that new hires were meant to connote because of this unprecedented event of the pandemic.
I have a question.
Isn't there an easy way to find the answer? Can't we just talk to the head of DCAS? Because the regulation itself would be a DCAS regulation.
Well, it is a
So
regulation, right? You
So-
yourself have had to even.
Yeah.
But so why don't we have a conversation with DCAS, find out whether or not there can be an exemption to the regulation if the hiring, if the person who is being dealt with as a new hire was an employee for X number of years. And even there, it can't be someone who was just an employee for a year, but someone who's had
Yeah, I don't
some.
know that I wouldn't know that it can be. I will leave that discussion to others, but I just think at a time when folks are trying to enter the workforce, at a
And
time
there are
when.
a ton of jobs. The city is complaining that
So many jobs.
jobs.
Yeah.
And it's fundamentally
Can I ask a question?
insulting to have folks come back to a place where they worked with
Quick question.
lower salaries than what they would have been in had they stayed. And
If I,
new people coming in that had no previous city service
right.
to begin with.
if I come back, don't you accrue like retirement, those let's say 4 years you work? Don't you accrue retirement for those 4 years?
Yes.
Yeah,
And-
So when you come back,
for retirement purposes, if
You stay
come
the
back,
same.
You stay the same. Yeah, you stay the same team and all that.
but then it doesn't
That's a great
Doesn't
point. That's a great
Do
point.
the prior 4
doesn't make
years
sense.
count for pension?
Yes.
Yeah,
If they pay.
Of course.
So when I come back in, it's just my salary that's less, but my pension is the same.
Yeah.
If
Thank
you
for
haven't
that.
cashed out.
That's a great point because that's a great person, the rationality,
cannot-
right? Because how do you come in as a new employee
Mhm.
when someone who's actually a new employee will be coming in at tier 6? But if you have worked 4, 5, 7, 8 years, well, you
Yeah.
still will be tier 6, but you would be, your service credits would be
Yeah.
one thing with your pension and you still would be considered a new employee for the city.
That's
So
why I
that's a
find it
great
weird.
contradiction.
Yeah.
And it's logical. So yeah, I definitely want to pursue that particular, sorry for.
Yeah, I-
Well, that's a great point.
I was gonna say, and I'm sorry, because I made the pension connection right away, because you still will have your time, or you can even buy it back if you didn't pay in, so that time would still count for something in terms of.
Yeah, that would be tantamount if there was a tier switch for the pension to say, oh, no, sorry, we have to treat you as a new pensioner. You're tier 6, not tier 4. Well, if you were actually legitimately eligible for tier.
But the
4.
point that you're making is valid. It's like all you hear is how people don't want to go back to work. We're looking, nobody shows up. We're looking. Well, if you're gonna give me less than what I was making, then I'll look somewhere else. And
No,
doesn't make sense.
Which is actually
Next,
part
because
of.
we are, yeah, sorry.
Yeah.
We go to, yeah. I
So
think,
let's
I think
take
it's
the
very,
harassment.
yeah, next we have audit update. Is there audit update?
So to meet our mandate, we launched 25 audits of bigger agencies, 18 community boards this year. There are 11 documents that will still have to go out by the end of December for us to meet the mandate of having all our preliminary and final determinations issued within the calendar year. So it's been mentioned before, there's been a lot of turnover. Departures, we're down to one manager, one analyst, but yeah, we're pushing through, and I think we still have a chance to meet that. As far as compliance overall, so it has also been mentioned before that last year we had a late start to our audit, so several compliance resolutions spilled over into this year. So the target goal was 70 overall for the year. As of this meeting, we're at 46. So I don't anticipate us getting quite to 70. However, I think realistically speaking, we may be able to get to around 60, which is still pretty much like 85% of the goal, which is I think pretty good given everything that has happened.
I understand.
So my only question is, the controller's audit of us and the controller arguing, I believe 36 is our magic number annually, is that right?
Yes.
So we didn't make 36 last year. Well, I don't remember what our total number was. And was that why we needed 70 this year, or will 60 do it if you put the two together?
No, I think that we did make our number last year.
Yeah, in terms of the preliminary determinations and final determinations, we met it. It's just in terms of the agencies being brought to conclusion with compliance resolutions, those spilled over into this year. So to target this year, we wanted to try and get everything finished in the calendar year, including compliance. So that's where this number of 70 came from. So it would have been about 35 from last year, about 30 some. It wasn't quite that exact, but rounding about 70. So 35 for last year, around 35 for this year, which would have brought us to
the 70?
Yeah.
Okay, so 60. So we're still shy. We're still shy. And the explanation is turnover.
We have no people.
I understand. I'm just getting prepared for the controller's audit.
Yes.
Commissioner Reese is just making sure the public record records why that is. Next, section 7, research update.
I'll be quick, so I know you guys have a training. We're on track for the local law 13 reports, that those will be published by the deadline. So that's moving along. It'll look very much like last year's report. And we are proceeding with the pilot program, for which you have a description that was not part of the official packet, but is now on your desks. And I'm happy to take if anybody has any questions or comments on
And my correction.
any of those and your corrections. Yes. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. Next, we have a motion, we adjourn, right? As we go, we're going to adjourn, and then for the public to know that the commissioners have now a prevention of sexual harassment training post this meeting. So we have a motion to adjourn. Moved by Commissioner Reese, seconded by Commissioner Alcantara. All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, hearing none. The meeting is now adjourned. We'll wait for the live recording to stop.